the candidates forum that's coming up next weekend. So woo, hopefully everyone can be there in person to hear from people who are running for office. So Sophie, over to you.
Good morning. My name, a response. My name is Sophie Twarkowski, and I'm a member of the USNH Connect Core team. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. If you read your USNH newsletter or have attended a recent Sunday service in person or virtual, you know that next Sunday, October 23rd, there will be a Connect candidate assembly at the Congregation B'nai Israel in Bridgeport. The assembly is focused on meeting with candidates running for state elected positions such as governor, secretary of state, and treasurer. We all know that the upcoming elections on both the state and national level are very important. We need to know our candidates' positions. I have attended Connect assemblies for over 5 years. Why do I continue to go? Immersion. Recently, I've had several awesome immersive experiences. Last Sunday, walking in, can you hear me? Last Sunday, walking in the woods on a beautiful fall day, I was immersed in the filtering of sunlight coming through the yellow, orange, and red leaves, the sounds of birds and insects, the sight of squirrels and chipmunks scurrying around. My senses were in overdrive. I was immersed in nature. I also recently attended a Van Gogh immersive experience. I have seen original Van
No.
different religious beliefs, multicultural, multiracial, and intergenerational. Our colors, shapes, ages, stories, beliefs, and values make a powerful statement to all present. The attendees, and in this case, the invited politicians, we are immersed in demonstrating a powerful social justice voice. However, in this latter experience, you see, the emphasis is on we. The immersion is magnified by one's connection to others. We are in a relationship with each other, advocating for our concerns. We not only internalize our experience, but we are also projecting our political power, our votes. I am not alone in experiencing the power, energy, and awe one feels after attending a Connect assembly. I invite you to join us next Sunday afternoon at the Connecticut Candidate Assembly in Bridgeport, or short drive south, or on Zoom. Your presence is important. Come and be immersed. Listen to the stories and responses. You will leave feeling informed, connected, energized, humbled, and maybe even awed. Representatives from the USNH core team are available at the table in the social hall. Please stop by for a visit, and we can register you, help you with carpools, or answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Gregory and Bill. That was both soothing and energizing. Good morning. I am Sue Lindsley, the worship associate today, and I am thrilled to be here because it always gives me an opportunity to look out at your faces. And it's so good to see them today. Welcome to this morning, this day, this opportunity to be together in community, a time of joy, of comfort, and sometimes challenges. This Unitarian Universalist congregation is a place where we come to learn about being more human. We're not here because we've figured out life's questions or because we think we've got it right. We come here to practice how to listen, how to forgive, how to be vulnerable, and how to trust. And before we move on, let's do the wave. Let's honor our friends off-site. Turn and wave at the camera. Woohoo! Thank you. I'll take a deep breath as we move into the call to worship. These are my favorite words from Kathleen McTeague. We come together this morning to remind ourselves to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's faces and see there the reflection of our own eyes. This house of laughter and silence, memory and hope is hallowed by our presence together, both here and off-site.
Excellent. The sound of new life. So we know that a candle will burn down over time, yet we ignite it anyway, knowing that even as the flame consumes it, the illumination it provides will light our way. I like that you're also safety-minded, that you were watching very carefully. Well done. So I would like to invite you into a song. It comes from the South African anti-apartheid movement. It's called Courage, My Friend. The words are in your order of service, but we'll learn it together. Well, I will teach it, and you will learn it, but we will do it together. So it's mostly call and response. There are a few lines that we sing together, and it's pretty straightforward. And then we'll substitute the other words that are in the order of service afterwards. So it goes, courage, my friend, you do not walk alone. That's one of the ones we do together. Let's try it. You do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home. Awesome. So let's try it through all together, and then with courage, and then in every sense of the word. And then we'll move on to freedom, justice, and then courage again. Okay. Courage, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home. Feel free to add Harmonies, as you're so called to do. Freedom. Freedom. My friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home. Justice, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home. Courage, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you and sing your spirit home.
When I first heard that this week we were going to be talking about the grace and beauty and challenge of aging, the first word that came to my mind was wisdom. As a young person, I was told often that what I could look forward to in old age was wisdom. Well, they didn't tell me about the lidocaine. You know, when I tried to think of something that I had learned from my elders that I could sort of sum up into a pithy comment that showed the wisdom of my elders, I had incredible trouble. I couldn't think of anything. I thought about my grandmothers and the other elders I've known, and the only thing that came to my mind was this one time I went to my grandmother's house, my father's mother's house, when I was a young child, and she was playing solitaire on the kitchen counter, and she had this box. She always had this box of Swiss cheese crackers. I don't even know if they sell them anymore, but they were crackers that came in every cracker was in a rectangle shape and had these little holes in them, I guess so that it looked a little bit like a piece of Swiss cheese. And I said to my grandmother in my childhood intelligence, "That's cheating. Those holes rob you of cracker." And she said to me, "I believe these crackers are made with every bit of flavor as a regular cracker has. The flavor's just concentrated into the space around the holes." Well, that seemed to satiate me for the time, and I enjoyed my Swiss cheese crackers. But I realize now, speaking to you today, that there is a kind of evolution of my understanding of wisdom. When I was a child, I used to think that wisdom was kind of like this bag or box, and you would put all of your life experiences and all of the intelligence that you gathered into it, and it would grow bigger and fuller the older that you got. But as I've grown up, I've realized that times change, and the experiences that we have and the intelligence that we accrue or gather through our lives sometimes doesn't translate from generation to generation. Sometimes there's all sorts of newfangled devices that come out, and as much wisdom as big as our box is, we have no idea how to work the gadgets of today or talk to young people today. So I share with you this. To me now, I look at wisdom a little bit more of your perspective, how you look on life. When I was a young child, if I made a timeline of my life, it would probably have been about this long. And what that meant is I could hold it very close. Every experience that I had was right there in front of me. And when I had to compare it to the other things that happened in my life, it didn't take too far to look back. So to see the perspective of my life, it was kind of like this, and I could hold it right here. Now, as a 40-something-year-old, my life's timeline looks a little bit more like this. There's more there, but it's a little bit harder to see the numbers. A little bit harder to see the holes like in the Swiss cheese cracker. The challenges that have happened over time aren't as right in front of my face, and so I can step back from it a little bit and take a little bit of a longer view. Now, when I talk to my elders, the timeline sometimes can seem like it's a little bit, perhaps a little bit longer. And I realize that when I have these conversations with my grandmothers, with my mother-in-law, now with my mother, that what they're looking back on is this giant pathway. And it allows them to step back to see it, and to look and to see that from far away, if this was actually made out of Swiss cheese crackers, the holes in it, the challenges, the sad moments, the tough moments, don't look so big. They look like these little blips in a big, long line. Because when you're far enough away from it, maybe you can just see how the flavor fills in around those holes. So let's take that with us as we go out to our RE classes and wherever we are on our life's journey. Let's enjoy the flavor that's around the holes. In typical style for this year, we are going to totally different places around the building for RE. So for our nursery care, our nursery person is out with COVID-like symptoms this morning. So we invite you to stay in the sanctuary and enjoy the rest of the service. If you are in kindergarten to second grade, you're going to meet out on the front lawn, and you can come down through this door here. If you are in third and fourth grade, you're in room 208 upstairs. And if you are in fifth and sixth grade, you're coming out the back of the sanctuary to our memorial garden. Christopher, will you sing us off in all these many different directions?
Covenant lies at the center of how Unitarian Universalists gather in community. We're united not by a particular set of beliefs, but by the promises we make about how we will be together, how we will treat each other, and how we will seek to mend relationships when we fall short of our aspirations. For a while now, we've recited our covenant in a way that gives an overview of everything we promise each other. For the next several weeks, and as we've done for the past couple weeks, we're going to focus on one element in its entirety. Last week we highlighted speaking our truths. Today we'll speak aloud our promise to use kind language. So please join me in reciting the words that appear in your order of service or in the chat on the live stream. Together let us say, we covenant together to create and nurture a culture of respect and kindness, and to engage in the spiritual and everyday practice of loving more generously. To this end, we will strive in part to use kind language, speaking with care and consideration, being gentle with one another, and remembering there is power in silence and reflection.
This is the time to consider joys and sorrows among us. Not having received any joys or sorrows, we'll talk about them in a more generic way. In this community, we make time each week to share pieces of our lives with one another. We share our sorrows with one another today, knowing that sorrow comes in each person's life, and knowing that together we offer comfort. We also share our joys with one another, knowing too that joy comes into all our lives, knowing that together our voices can rise in a chorus of celebration. Not every joy or sorrow can be shared openly in community, but it can be held in our hearts. I'd like to mention that there will be a memorial service for Letty McPhedran this coming Saturday, October 22nd at 10:30 here, and there will be a reception following. We lift up with joy that earlier this week was National Coming Out Day, which celebrates the LGBTQ+ community and the freedom to live openly as your true self. Not everyone is able to come out for a variety of reasons. If that's you, please know that we support whatever decision is best for you. But please know also that your true self is warmly welcomed here at USNH. Following these words of meditation, there will be a few moments of silent contemplation, followed by a musical interlude. These are the words of my favorite Sufi poet, Khalil Gibran. When you are joyous, look deep in your heart, and you shall find it is only that which has given you sorrow that is giving you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Some of you say, joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, nay, sorrow is the greater. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come, and when one sits alone with you at your board, remember that the other is asleep in your bed. Verily, you are suspended like scales between your sorrow and joy.
That, absolutely. I love that we have the sound of new life in the sanctuary, especially on a day when we're talking about old age. Absolutely. Because both are part of this community. The whole range is part of this community, and that's one of the few places left in society, in our culture, where young and old and youth and young adults and families all gather together in one community, where we're there for each other through all of the stages of life, where we're there for each other through all the stages of growing and becoming. So I invite you to be as generous as you can to support that goal of multi-generational community. Whether you're online, you can go to usnh.org and click the donate button in the upper right corner. You can send a check to 700 Hartford Turnpike, Hamden, Connecticut 06517. Or for those of you who are in the sanctuary this morning, there'll be people who can collect your offering on the way out. Please be as generous as you can to support this generous community. Thank you.
so inspiring. I have to confess that I really envy those of you in the music community. The richness of that particular vocation just astonishes me. And another confession. This is one of the hardest readings I have ever approached. It's called The Difficult Ordinary by Anna George Meek. It may sound disjointed, but there is an internal consistency. So bear with me, please. It begins with this epigraph. I can't put toothbrushes in a poem, I just can't, said Sylvia Plath. Of course you can, Sylvia. My father is already forgetting how to clean himself. The words that are left him he places in a row like beautiful teeth, but you, leaving life early, your teeth are now rotted and fallen out like, sound it out, tooth, brush, tooth, brush. Then dress yourself, raise the oatmeal spoon up to your teeth, try again. Begin the stairs with the left foot, try again. Brilliant man, writer, fierce for him the day lasts. Mute, he wanders his empty hours. He gentles a book of shipyard photographs. The day lasts. He delivers a stone to his only child, who loves him gravely. Tooth. And when the afternoon is beyond abandoning, his daughter sits down with him to stroke his great quiet hand. Brush, brush, brush.
And the music today. Thanks to the choir, thanks to Christopher, thanks to Gregory, who was playing violin, and of course, big thanks to you, Bill. Old age ain't no place for sissies. I first saw the sentiment on a poster in the office of a former supervisor of mine. It showed a muscular, older white man in sweatpants and no shirt, leaning into one hip and holding dumbbells in both hands. While the image may have focused on preparing physically for old age, Betty Davis's quote applies at least as much to the emotional, intellectual, and spiritual changes that come with aging. Now, before I begin, I want to remind everyone that while I may be younger than you, I'm not young. I'm 53, and I've earned every year of it. Assuming naivete can disrespect pretty much anyone. We never know what a young person may have gone through. But once someone passes the half-century mark, it does become kind of absurd. So I also want to highlight the fact that I paired this week's topic with the part of our covenant that exhorts us to use kind language. This was very much on purpose, because I hear so often people denigrating themselves for being old. And I know the dominant culture in this country worships youth, but it isn't like that everywhere. In other places, old age is revered for the experience and wisdom that come with it. And as someone who was young and queer in the 1990s, I'm acutely aware of the fact that not everyone gets the privilege of growing old. HIV/AIDS decimated an entire generation of gay and bi men, leaving a huge gap in the fabric of the LGBTQ+ community and US culture more widely. Due to the callous disregard of the Reagan administration, most of those sissies never got to take their place in old age. That said, you can hold gratitude for being alive side by side with grief and fear around growing old. Indeed, I think one of the hallmarks of getting older is the need to live with uncertainty and paradox, and, thankfully, an increased capacity to do so. According to Brené Brown, Carl Jung called the paradox one of our most valued spiritual possessions and a great witness to the truth. He wrote, "Only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life." As we age, we hopefully gain a fuller and fuller experience of life. And it makes sense then that we'd run into more and more paradoxes. I'm thinking of my roommate Laura, who had lived with lupus for over a decade and was diagnosed with an aggressive cancer when she was 44. She managed to hold the paradox of doing everything she could to get better, while also accepting the possibility of her death. I had a front row seat to her cancer journey, from the encouraging early signs to her rapid decline. The process was messy and painful and profound, all at once. I'm forever grateful for her example of how to face the complexity of death. It's strange to remember all these years later that Emily and I were at a concert on the New Haven Green when we got word that Laura had died 11 days after her 45th birthday. So what exactly is it that makes growing older so difficult? The list isn't exactly short, so if you're struggling, please know it's not just you. There's a reason that Davis's quote still gets repeated. Systemically, institutionally, our culture makes aging harder than it has to be. As I mentioned earlier, the worship of youth means that people become invisible once they pass a certain point in the way they look or move. This famously happens with actresses in Hollywood, with substantive roles nearly non-existent for women in middle age. And that's starting to change a little bit, probably because more women are running production companies. But invisibility and disrespect still pervade real life. Poverty doesn't help. According to the National Council on Aging, over 15 million, or roughly 1 in 3, older adults age 65 plus are economically insecure, with incomes below 200% of the federal poverty level. In addition, millions of older adults struggle to meet their monthly expenses, even though they're not considered poor because they live above the federal poverty level. And without Social Security, which lifts over 16 million people over the age of 65 out of poverty, these statistics would be even more dire. Then, of course, there are the very real physical challenges that take place as we age. Our systems slow down, our bodies ache in places we didn't know existed, and medical appointments suddenly take up more and more space in our calendars. We find ourselves recounting our physical ailments, what I recently heard someone call an organ recital. That's pretty brilliant. I love that. But we recount these things because they affect our daily lives with a new intensity. An element of, how can this be, is lodged in the litany as well. How did this body that was going along as usual suddenly stop working the way it had? And again, ableism plays a role in our suffering as well. For example, if the world were fully accessible to people in wheelchairs, in transportation, in stores, heck, in even a basic sidewalk out here on Hartford Turnpike, then the need to use one wouldn't shrink your world in the same way. Too often, though, people with disabilities are written off. In his 1991 Berry Street essay, Berry Street is the longest running essay series in the country, and it's run by the UU Ministers Association. So in his 1991 essay, Victor Carpenter talked about parenting 2 daughters with disabilities in a world that views them as less than fully human. Writing against the backdrop of the 1990 passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act, he detailed many expressions of ableism, such as the infantilizing of people with disabilities, the belief that curb cuts and sign language interpreters are accommodations for the other, and the acceptability of some adaptive technologies, like glasses, but not others, like wheelchairs. He shared that one well-meaning doctor even proposed that Carpenter and his wife put their autistic daughter in an institution and forget about her so they could move on with their lives. Ableism is built out of fear, particularly fear of becoming physically vulnerable. Moreover, this vulnerability is magnified by the capitalist system in which we operate, which turns people with disabilities into non-entities. As Carpenter noted, in an individualist society, to fail to be self-sufficient, i.e. able, is an abomination. Not to produce is to forfeit recognition as having human worth. Richard Gilbert sounded a similar note in his 1996 essay. For him, spirituality recognizes that there is more to living than the eye can see, hand can touch, ear can hear, nostrils can inhale, words can say. We are the ones about whom there is no bottom line. People are not cost effective. Under capitalism, though, our value derives primarily from the ways in which we act as human doings rather than human beings. And people with disabilities challenge this paradigm by making the truth of humans' interdependence unavoidably apparent. Whatever the changes we have to deal with as our bodies age, whether vision problems, dementia, cancer, arthritis, or simply gray hair, we also have to deal with the loss of self that we've known. The loss of the self we've known. We have to grieve it and try and make peace with our new reality. For example, while not being considered conventionally beautiful has come with its share of pain, I'm also grateful because I won't have to adjust to losing that status. On the other hand, as a musician, I'd experience deafness as a profound loss of my sense of self. Growing older also gives us the opportunity to reflect on the lives we've led. How this goes depends in large part on how well we've paid attention to the big questions along the way. What difference have I made in the world? How have I created meaning? How have I relieved the suffering of others? How deeply have I loved? When I look back on my life, am I content with how I played the cards I was dealt? The good news is that even if you don't like the answers you come up with, you still have time to change your trajectory. You can't redo your entire life, but you can make different choices from here on out. You can choose to be more loving. You can choose to find gratitude in the smallest things. You can look for hope even if it no longer looks like what it may have in the past. When I was a hospital chaplain, that was one of the questions I'd ask patients. What does hope look like for you right now? What does hope look like for you right now? Maybe when they first get a diagnosis, hope looks like a cure. If a cure isn't an option, maybe it looks like staying independent. When independence is no longer possible, perhaps hope takes the form of more time with loved ones. And when time is running down, hope may simply show up in the ability to be present to life in its final days. And the elephant in the room. Growing older can be frightening because we get closer and closer to death, the great unknown. Death and life are inextricably linked, the former paradoxically giving the latter meaning. Absolutely everything in the universe dies, even stars. A seminary colleague of mine called it the ultimate small d democratic principle. You'll hear many spirituals talk about the freedom that slaves will experience after death because they knew that masters who took everything else could not take away the promise of death. Now, if possible, I want to share a video with you from The Sandman, which is based on a comic written by Neil Gaiman. The story follows Dream, who is one of the endless. They're not gods, but anthropomorphic representations of powerful natural forces they embody. In this clip from an episode called The Sound of Her Wings, Dream is spending the day with his older sibling, Death, as she goes about her duties.
That up, hang on. So Ah. Is it playing? Okay.
No, change your sound source.
Okay, I'm going to change the sharing. And
It's from a series called The Sandman. It's called Sound of Her Wings. It doesn't work all I'll describe it and watching this.
The volume is all the way down on the movie.
oh, on the video. Okay. Where did the video go? Here
Can't help
come,
you.
come. Here it is, here it is. I need somebody to help me navigate. How am I doing about getting close to the sound thing? There's a mute thing there and I need to,
Left, just a skosh. Left, 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 left. Just a little more. Okay, you're there. Okay, yes, you're good.
tell me when I've got this over this because I can't see it.
Oh, okay, you're getting your play. There you left, just a skosh. Left,
Woohoo!
No, don't stop, please.
Sorry for the noise.
It's not noise, it's Schubert. Keep going.
I can't. He never finished it. All we have is a fragment. Oh, forgive me, I am Harry.
I know who you are, Harry. Do you know who I am?
No, not yet, please.
It's time.
Can I just... There's something I have to say, if that's all right.
Of course.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. I'm glad I said the Shema. My old man always said it would guarantee you a place in heaven, if you believe in heaven. I look so old, so empty. So, I'm dead. Now what?
Now then you find out, Harry. You ready?
Throw me out of the movie. I can't. Throw me out. Throw me out.
Does that idea fill you with dread? Peace? Something else? How have you treated the people around you? How have you treated yourself? Have you been stingy or generous with your love? How present have you been to your life? Has fear ruled your decisions? Has passion? In thinking about dying the way you lived, is there something you'd want to change about how you live right now? One thing I often think about is the idea of becoming an elder, not just older. To be an elder implies a certain wisdom, a level of respect that has been earned, and most importantly, a willingness to serve the community. I hope I live long enough and wisely enough to become an elder for the communities of which I'm part. And whether or not that happens, living in that way guides me in a direction that I find meaningful. I also think about the importance of being a good ancestor. And that doesn't matter whether or not you have children of your own. What decisions can I make today that will leave a legacy I'm proud of? I think of the people who founded USNH and created a community that hadn't existed before. We're the beneficiaries of everything they gave to make this congregation grow and thrive, just as we can be for the generations that follow. None of us knows for sure what happens after we die. For some of you, it's a full stop with nothing else afterwards. Others expect to reunite with loved ones who have died. Perhaps you believe you'll reincarnate and return to Earth for another lifetime. Or maybe you're just fine with the great mystery, content to wait until death finds you and ushers you to whatever comes next. We each have our own beliefs, fears, and hopes. What I do know is that what is remembered lives. For as long as someone remembers us, we are part of this earthly existence. If the story we write with our lives will be told and retold, will yours be a love story? A cautionary tale? A tragedy? A triumph? All of the above? I hope most of all that mine is a tale of kindness despite everything. I try to write at least a few sentences of it every day, because when I get to the last page, I want to look back and say, yes, that was a life well lived. May each of us receive such a gift, and may each of us have the courage to make it so. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.
Would you stand or not as you're able, and please sing with us, Now Sing We of the Brave of Old. Thank you.
With meaning and love and understanding, please say the words in your order of service as Reverend Linda Susan extinguishes the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Friends, age is a gift. Time is a gift. This life is a gift. How will you use it? How will you share it? How will you find joy in it? How will you make meaning in it? These are the questions that we come together to wrestle with. May your wrestling be good, and may you find a blessing in it. So let us go forth with courage and with kindness and be a blessing to this broken and beautiful world. Amen.